Hi, everyone.
Hello, Cram. Hello, everyone.
Yes.
I'm not. It's probably. Oh, I pulled a mic. Hi, guys.
Hello.
I'm not sure how loud it is in here, but I just wanted to say hi to everybody, and I'll probably just hang out in the audience. The wife's driving for me. Say hi, babe. She sounds.
That's way worse than a mic, by the way. You were right up on that.
All right. So hi, and I'll just listen in.
Oh, what's going on, guys? I made it. I'm here. Sorry.
Hello, Arthur.
Oh, what's going on, Yon?
What's happening, Art?
Living the dream, 1 hour at a time. I'm here. What happened to Queenie? She fall asleep on us?
I think she's here.
I do not blame her if she did. That's right, John. I'm enticed to spin.
Hi, Soham.
Hey,
guys.
Soham.
Well, there we go.
What? We lost Mike.
You like the background? It's great, isn't it?
I gotta stop looking at this chat. This 3. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna switch these so that I can be staring not off to the right here. Pop out the chat. Oh, all right. Did I miss Cram? Did he pop in?
Yeah, you did.
All right. Keep rolling. All right. Queenie coming up to speak with us or no? I don't know.
Oh, I think
I'm
not.
just getting here. Okay. Oh, Queenie, but we missed your voice. Okay, so I think we should get started here. So we have a lot of new people, and I think introductions kind of should be thrown around if everybody wants to introduce themselves. I guess I'll start. I'm Artie, COO of KTO Exchange and one of the developers of Kounotori token. My job is primarily organization and operations, and that pretty much sums it up.
I'm Johan. I'm the CTO. I deal with the technical stuff, the wallet management, and so on. And that's about it.
Cool. I'm Saham. I'm the founder at Tech Alchemy. I think a whole load of you would have seen me before. Maybe not against this background, but I'm still in the same place.
I rather like that background.
You guys will need to come in and see it for yourself. It's real. It's on our wall.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Where is Mike?
Was
Did
there a
we
second
lose
ago?
him?
Yeah, he was here, but I think he's having trouble joining. He was having
Oh.
trouble, then he managed to join, and now he's dropped out again.
Okay, so let's dive right in. You're all here to, you're wondering what is going on. What one of the primary focuses for today is to, have Tech Alchemy here with us to answer all of your questions that you may have. We have had a few meetings with Tech Alchemy, some of them being our first. So, we're in the midst of working on things here, and we want to let the Kounotori token community know that the centralized exchange will be in full development, with the intention of the onboarding process coming within the next 2 weeks. Soham, is that the onboarding process?
As in for us to start up again?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, within 2 weeks, it takes, as we staff up, it takes time for different people, and so within 2 weeks, everyone will be on.
So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. Some of the primary ones is when. We know it's coming, right? So our intention and our goal here for the centralized exchange is to tentatively have it done this year. We want to give you specific dates, but we also know that we don't want to lie to you in saying that that at this time, at this date, the centralized exchange will be fully built. As I said, our goal is this year. And one of the things that we are focusing on right now is, kind of where things have been left off. There's going to be several conversations, and as usual, we go through it. You guys will know when we know. The whole point of this, and mark my words, that each and every one of us, I believe here, are very comfortable in saying that once we start, we are not going to stop. No month to month. This is straight through. It's from start to finish, and filling you guys in along the way with how things are being built, getting you involved in the beta versions. Soham, you want to kind of talk a little bit about where we're going to be starting off here, and what are we looking at, like, projected wise, for the the platform, what's our first focus?
Yeah, of course. So, very much what we want to build, but we want to carry on from where we left off. And as Artie's already said, we don't plan, or we're not going to stop. I can give you the assurances I can give you is we wouldn't do it if we were going to stop, and so we're not. And the fact that we're doing it means you can rest assured that we're not going to stop. So there we go. Exactly. Where we're planning to start, you give yourself too easily, Artie. Where we're planning to start is, well, what we know what the main features of a centralized exchange are. As everyone knows, we need to build for deposits, we need to build for withdrawals, we need to build for on and off in tokens, and eventually with fiat. So really where we're starting is right where we left off, and what myself, the KTO team here at Tech Alchemy, and then obviously these guys are going to be working on is road mapping that out at a sprint level, making sure that we're working on things that make sense. There are a lot of moving parts to something like an exchange, right? There's a lot of different partners you need, there's a lot of different compliances you need, and we want to work in a way that makes the most sense with who else you're talking to. And so if we have an integration with partner A, whoever they may be, we will work together to get those guys on board, and we don't want that to affect development, and so we carry on developing as we go. And so it's very much building that roadmap together.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, so it's safe to say one of the first initial things is going to be focusing on the platform itself, the process, the order books. From there, the implementations on what we do next. We are diving into, and we're going to dive into it deep, kind of make it make sense, and go from there. And just there's going to be a lot of back and forth, I'm sure. Yay! But I'm looking forward to it. It's something a lot of the community members have just been waiting to hear, that, we're all here. We've been here for a very long time. And for me personally, it's just nice to know that everything that we have done and have been waiting for is actually coming to life. It's kind of the biggest thing for a lot of people is knowing that, the wait was not in vain. So if people do have questions, I'm not used to tracking them. So if you could put them in Q&A, that'll be great. Any of the other chats, I'm not going to be able to find it fast enough. So Jake put up a question. I guess, Soham, this one's for you. Will TA let us... Will TA...
So I see the question of coffee cup. What I'm going to say is my coffee has gone cold, but it's meant to be in white. I'll get it heated up and I'm gonna show you, but usually this is in white. Our logo's already on coffee cups. What we need is the KTO logo on the other side. And so if you can knock that up, absolutely, all for it.
That's probably going to be done by within the next
by the end
hour,
of this.
Jake.
Exactly.
Is the plan of Nintai holders having beta access still in effect? So we did talk about this, and there was a large conversation over beta and the importance of it, and we're working through the details. A lot of what we discussed was we wouldn't want to see 50 different implementations come out and then the beta access being kind of opened up and conjumbling all of these different features and trying to test each one. Where I would really like to see, and don't quote me on it yet because we're still working over the details, is as Jake, I believe Jake put it, a rolling beta where we want to get the beta access out as soon as possible so that we can test these features as they're being developed and kind of keep all the issues and the tickets organized as we go. As far as, the Nintai holders, I believe the golden tickets had specifications on it. All of what was originally planned will still actually be in effect. The early beta access will be for you guys who have put forth in that fashion. Yes. SMS. Jake also asked, will the SMS 2FA be mandatory?
Question. I mean, what I'll say is I've never seen an exchange not require two-factor authentication. It doesn't have to be, right? And so, I guess it really depends. These are kind of like technical decisions rather than mandatory decisions. Nothing's mandatory. However, it would be smart of us to make some sort of 2FA mandatory, right? Because the problem of centralization is it's centralized. It stops being as easy to like hack an individual, but it's putting everything in one place and allowing people to lose passwords. Us forcing 2FA on you guys means that you guys are always secure. And so, I think we will keep it in and we will make it that SMS is mandatory, but obviously that's up for discussion with you guys.
And these are things that we will talk about further as our conversations are just getting started. It's clear we're not going to have all of the answers up front, but we will get there. Wild Robo. You mentioned sprint type planning. Would it be possible to make some of the stories and progress public so that we can see how it is going as you move along? Actually, I can't answer this one. We talked about methods of actually doing that where we had pretty much, I can't remember if it was a Trello or a live website on the progress as we went along. We're still discussing that, but in the light of transparency, it does make sense. We actually love that idea because as we do move through, we are already currently, checking off the boxes as we're building. But it would be really nice to kind of see a flowing story map along the way. So great question. Definitely going to put that into a suggestion. Let's see, Jake from Mr. Hull. Question: with the SEX registered in the USA, are you not concerned about the regulatory anti-crypto stance in the US? This is a great question.
For me, I can give you some insight into, as someone who talks to most people trying to do things in exchanges. Everyone's concerned about all regulation, right? But what you have to understand is the governments don't seem to actually be anti-crypto. They seem to be anti-no transparency, right? Like the reason that they're not happy with the exchanges that we all currently use is the reason that KTO is being built, right? So like, yes, of course, and we're back to what Artie was saying right at the beginning. We can't promise states. One of the reasons we can't promise states is because crypto moves so much, right? Like we don't know what someone is going to say in 2 weeks' time for getting 6 months, right? But at the same time, what I can say is we are more in the know of what regulators are thinking than most people are, and we're trying to we're trying to build things in a way that is going to be right for the regulation that we think is coming, rather than the regulation that's currently trying to be patched. And so, yeah, of course, the US is currently quite anti-crypto, but you have to understand why they're quite anti-crypto, because everything's pegged to USD, right? If every stable coin was called GBPT instead, we'd see that the UK government's very anti-crypto. I don't think they are. I don't think anti-crypto is the right word here. I think it is pro-regulation and pro kind of transparency. And again, it's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's regulations, transparency, in accordance to any law is something Kounotori, or KTO, if you will, is going to follow. So as long as we're working with the powers, maybe, the SEC or, that closely thereof, we just follow the regulations as they come out. And when things change, we're in a position where we could easily adapt to them. So I don't foresee any major concerns at all. Bashir put in: does Kounotori want to expand into what I think he means the metaverse? This is something we have not talked about. I don't think we have intentions of expanding into it quite yet, but this is crypto. You never know what's going to happen.
The metaverse at the moment is still in its infancy. It's not really a thing properly just yet. And there are all these projects and tokens just jumping on board, just as if it's another fad that will help them garner more attention. So for the time being, we have no plans to do it, but maybe in the future, depending on where things stand. But as we've said many times before, we are fully focused on this one aim that we have at the moment, which is completing the centralized exchange. And that leads me on to Bear's question, whether we're fully funded or not. I think Artie can answer that.
As far as funding goes, we have worked with Tech Alchemy to, as you guys all know, we've been very transparent in understanding that, Tech Alchemy has offered us a discount. We are ramping things up to get things done, and we are initially putting a very hefty deposit down with for the centralized exchange to be developed in full. There's going to be a small portion of it left over that we will accumulate over the course of 3 months. But we are already in a notion that we can easily pay for it, and everything will be done. We are super, and I mean super confident in saying that there's no intention of stopping. I hope that answers your question. Bear, sorry I did miss it.
Essentially, we are fully funded. We have the funding to complete the development, and any further funding we acquire along the way will be used to speed up the development further.
Yes.
And Mike is here.
Mike, welcome back.
Download on a different device. Sorry.
I'll jump right into IQ's question. He's talking about the percentages in APY. And I think this is probably a good question for you. He wants to know what are the incentives to having people want to stake 20% when they can simply take 3 months of time to stake rewards to earn larger amounts. Will fees be higher to deter people from doing this?
Hold on, I'm reading the question. So what I think he's asking is whether, what are the incentives of people to stake at the lower percentages rather than the 20%?
I think it's the other way around.
Yeah.
What he's saying, just to be clear, what he's saying is obviously 3 times 4 is 20, and so if I stake for 3 months at a time, it's the same as staking for a year, and so why would I stake for a year if I can just stake for 3 months?
Right. Oh, that's a good question.
I think it is a good question. What I would say is, obviously, at least from my perspective, I've always assumed there are other staking rewards outside of just APY. And so, one of the things that you have to be really careful about is just APY being everything and the only reason to do anything, because that's not how money works, right? Like, you can't simply just tell everyone we'll give you more and more and more because it runs out. And that's what's happened over the last sort of 18 months, right? What you, and obviously, I mean, the millions of projects that have just been promising ridiculous things. I think, if those numbers obviously can be revisited, nothing's, set in stone. That's the first thing to say. And so, perhaps one of the things to discuss is incentivizing with slightly higher numbers for longer stakes. But then also there can be non-APY based rewards too.
And again, things that we are going to be discussing. Again, lots to break into. We have that time window while development's being structured to really kind of seamlessly, put things together and just make it make sense. So great question, IQ. That is definitely going in my book. Yeah, you've given me more to write down. Thank you.
And just to add on to the different awards, there's obviously the thing about lowered transaction fees on the exchange, scaling with the amount of KTO that you have staked at the time. So that adds on as well.
Mr. Hull, I think we answered your question. Somebody else posted it. Oh, well, are there ways for the community to help development? There's tons of ways to help, and I mean, you guys have been doing it from the start. Just spreading the word. I mean, there's going to be other things that come up, along the way that we will, enlighten you guys on, especially when it comes to beta versions, testing, so on and so forth. These are things that are already helping, with development as we're going along. And just spreading the word about KTO. The recent light of KTO has definitely taken off. It's more and more people are joining every day, and it's truly great to see. Owl has a question here from Ticket. Sorry, I got to read this question from Ticket Reported for Alpha. Is there any concerns regarding the design of heavy modification need to be done? Not quite understanding the question that Owl's throwing up. If somebody else wants to take it.
I think what he means is, and then maybe after this I can answer a couple of the questions that have been asked to me. I think what he's asking is, has any of the feedback from the alpha, has any of the feedback been that we need to modify things massively? And I think that kind of ties into another question, which is, how helpful has the alpha feedback been? And the alpha feedback has been really helpful, and it will carry on continuing to be. I think what Artie said right at the beginning about a kind of rolling beta, we want you guys involved, right? We want you giving us feedback because you're the ones who will use it. It's quite rare that you get to build a product with the end users actually telling you what they want, right? I think where the feedback has been most helpful is we get to see the points that multiple people have kind of told us, right? And so obviously lots of people have lots of different opinions, but when you see a trend of a few people saying the same thing, that's when it's like, oh, maybe that's something that we should do. We also had quite a lot of bits of feedback which were kind of suggestions, and so I think I can say it's been very helpful. In terms of massive overhauls, though, unless there's something I haven't been told or I missed, not really. I don't think there has been huge amounts of the platform needs to be built differently. And so I don't think there's going to be anything that comes up. What I can say is when our design team here at TA is pretty experienced and knows this stuff inside out. We've worked on some of the most complex products that get used, and that's not an exaggeration. And so something like UX, user experience, is most of what that team is obsessed with. And so whilst in the end a lot of products look kind of simple, they look simple because we want them to be easy to use. And so really what we're trying to build here is a product that you guys and everyone else, the community needs to be way, way bigger than it is. We want this to grow exponentially. To do that, we need to get people into the crypto universe who don't actually want to deal with how complex things can be when you visit, the million exchanges that exist. And so, yeah, I think hopefully that answers your question. And then just going back, I think on the question around being able to help us with development, it looks like you were referring to actually helping, as in, could we get you guys to be building specific parts? It's an interesting question. I will say it's not something we've done before. We've not open sourced projects and had communities work with us. It's very, very hard to do properly. What I can say is if you are giving a feature suggestion and you decided, I actually want to show you how this is going to work. It's not only that I want to, it's not only that I have this idea for a feature, but here's a way that it could actually work. That would be exceptional. That would be very cool to see. But I think, we have, it's very hard to say this nicely. We have very, very high standards for our code, right? And so our code goes through numerous rounds of testing, numerous rounds of code review before they get merged. And So open sourcing things and having lots of people working on it and then doing pull requests is a whole different way of building. It's not necessarily how we think we would do it.
Sorry, I lost my place here. Lord has a question here. If the plan is to be concentrated on developing the platform, which projects are we partnering first to be listed? So this would be a great question for Cram. He's currently not here, but he is part of the R&D department. And we've since put together listing topics for groups that we're reaching out. Our tentative goal is to vet and list any valid project that wants to be on our exchange. So those are huge at this stage now, are going to be huge things that we are diving deeper into, and just starting to talk with project leads and just build partnerships as we're going along here. Metaverse. IQ pretty much said stay away from the metaverse. Again, a topic that we've haven't really had the need.
What
to
is
have
a metaverse anyway? I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can I send messages onto this exchange? I think what you're referring to here is an onboard, I guess, chat platform built into the exchange. I don't think there was ever previous conversations about it. Whether or not it's a good idea is something we would need to sit down and discuss, but nothing concrete right now. Just coming in hard. Possible. Lord asks, is it possible to develop an AI? If yes, how can't it be helpful for the crypto sphere? Not a question I can answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so when someone says they've developed an AI, it kind of means two things. And this is going to be a little bit off topic for most people, but I think it's quite interesting, at least to me. An AI, 5 years ago, when someone said I'm building an AI, what they meant is they're training a model, right? Which meant they had to gather the data. Where we're at today, and this is why, if everyone's wondering why is there so much AI stuff happening in the last 6 months, it's because the training data is now available to us all, right? It means that we as developers can start using the APIs that GPT have been putting out, that Google will put out, and all of these different companies. Like OpenAI had GPT-2 out a few years ago, and it wasn't what it is today. GPT-3 came out sort of middle of last year, and everyone was trying to get access, and we started seeing in the development sphere huge amounts of talk about all of this kind of stuff. But as soon as they fully allowed everyone to just get an API key, so now I have an API key and everyone here can get one if they want to, there's an explosion of it, right? And so building AIs for anything at this point is way less difficult than it used to be, but you'd actually have to decide what you want it to work, what you want it to do. So, for example, if we wanted to build a crypto-based AI that answers questions, you can ask it questions about what does staking actually mean, and it can give you an answer. You could build that, right? And as a knowledge base, you don't actually have to do any training anymore. But the difficult part now becomes, what do you want the AI to actually do? And so, yeah, it's not something that you couldn't build. It's just something that you'd have to really well define. I think you'd be looking at it in the context of Kounotori. You'd be looking at it in like future versions, for sure.
So, Ham, there's one for you here from Nappers to discuss comparatively how the functionality of our exchange your team is building versus the current products on the market.
Yeah, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, exchanges are exchanges, right? They do the same thing. There's the flows by which those things happen. Right. I think a really easy way to explain this is I'm sure most people here have used something like Coinbase and also used something like Binance. Right. And if you look at Binance, you can see that that was made for people who think they can trade. Whether they can or not is kind of irrelevant to Binance, right? But it's made for people who want to try and trade. Whereas Coinbase, at least when it first came out prior to Coinbase Pro and everything else, that's not what their intention was. Their intention was build something that allows people to get into crypto. What we're trying to do is somewhere in between that. Right, we're simplifying the product. We're making the UX easy. We want people who are trying to build in this space to be able to have a place to come. But from a like back end perspective, it's still an exchange. You still have to build the same things that every exchange has to build.
Lord asked the question, if a project wanted to be listed on our platform, will they have to pay a fee? And how is this money going to be spent? There will be listing fees for, partnerships that, want to be on our exchange. This much I know. The money essentially will have multiple uses. The continuation of development on expansion, or, just the overall notion to build the treasury for the centralized exchange. I would think that these would be the two primary. We're also going to have expenses as far as team payments, employees, gas, water, and electric bills, all that fun stuff. But yeah, that's essentially how the funds would be, utilized. And of course, the talks of the blockchain and the expansion of the foundation for KTO, and other implementations that we are rolling over, as we move along here. Apparently I skipped Nahana's question somewhere up here.
What's so our website is built in Next, which is very, very observant. So that's good to that's good for you to know. Yeah, we are building the KTO platform in a similar framework. It's still, it's all JavaScript based.
Will KTO beat Binance in the great crypto race? I can't tell you whether or not we'll beat Binance.
Yeah.
Again, I will go back to the famous saying that, I think Queenie put it best. We're not trying to beat Binance. We're not trying to beat Coinbase. We're trying to be KTO. And I feel as though, despite the similarities on what we need to build, I think in the end we're going to be a whole different kind of animal. And whether that's hopium or just the way I see it, I'm pretty excited for KTO's future. Question. IQ, will KTO Sex have a learn and earn program similar to Coinbase? That's not something we have talked about yet. It's a neat feature they do have. I think KTO personally has an entire Discord that is a learning, community who is very smart, very well educated in being able to help those, that are around the KTO project. But again, things that we could put into suggestions and discuss further. Sorry, there. I'm like trying to read through the conversations here. Dan Mingo, will there be operational limits? Like, can't trade X amount of dollars till Y verifications are done. Is he referring to limitations on how much money could be maneuvered around on the exchange? I think that's how I'm taking.
The way I'm reading that is like, a lot of, or every exchange will have some limit, basically saying you have a limit based on the kind of level of KYC you've done. So the more KYC you do, the higher your limits will be, and you have to have those. So there definitely would be, because you just have to. Like, the only way to not have them is to have one limit, which is the lowest possible limit, and then you don't have to have them. But why would you do that, right? So yeah, absolutely. We want people to be able to use the product quickly and easily. We also want people to be able to use it as their main exchange, right? And so if someone, there are people out there trading millions of dollars every day. We want them to be able to use this product. For them to be able to use this product, the level of KYC they'd have to do is much higher, because obviously the risk is just higher for KTO.
Absolutely. Soham, here's one for you. It's one thing for our project leaders to say that they're confident in public release of the exchange this year. What's your confidence level of the public release for this year?
Yeah, I should say, I think it's maybe a bit of a look behind the curtain, but everything that the guys are going to say about things like roadmap release dates, I already know what they're going to say, right? Like I would have jumped in right then and there if I didn't agree. So what I'll say is, if the guys are saying something, we've already talked about it. I'm pretty confident that we could get this done within the year. There are reasons why that may not happen, but my confidence level is pretty high. What I will also say is, if and when that were to happen and our confidence was lower, you'd know. We're not going to just hold out until November and tell you, listen, actually it's not happening. That's not how this operates. And I think your past experience with Tech Alchemy and with KTO's, previous team, and hopefully now as well, it should be there. You should already have that.
This is from Travis. What kind of security protection will be placed from the actually I like how that's but the dirtier actors on the internet?
There's a lot there's a lot of ways to answer that, right? Like, basically, it's a chicken and egg of what you say to these kinds of questions, right? The security of your platform comes down to so many different things, right? It comes down to who's actually custodying your assets, where they're custodied, where are things centralized, how many things are being done in hackable ways. What I can say is, when you see bridges get hacked and stuff like that, we all knew it could happen. They knew it could happen, right? Like, they must have known, because you're centralizing things in a way that you shouldn't. What we're trying to do here is build things in the way that they should be built. To say exactly what that is seems not that sensible, and so I just won't. But I can kind of assure you that we're taking all of the best practices and then some. I think there's another question just further down which kind of ties into this around functional and QA. So functional testing, Tech Alchemy has a team of like 30 people whose full-time job is QA, right? And what that means is they do actual normal technical, normal quality assurance. They're actually testing the product. But then there's, code level. At code level, they're doing code tests. They're doing integrations with things like SonarQube to check for code smells. Like, it's not just code quality that we care about. Obviously, it's code functionality, code security. Finally, we have third-party partners. Again, I won't say who, because it's important not to know these kinds of things, but we have third-party partners who do things like penetration testing. We can have them working for months before to make sure, basically actively trying to do what malicious actors are going to try and do, which is break in. If you look this stuff up, it's one of the most interesting jobs around in tech. There are people trying to like social engineer your password by texting you, and then they managed to get your password because they tricked you into thinking they were your mum, and then 2 weeks later you get a text message from them saying, hey, yeah, we managed to hack your platform, you need to fix this security issue. We take security so seriously, right? Like, building centralized exchanges is not something that people who have no experience in security should even think about doing, right? And so that's one of the reasons we're happy to. We wouldn't take this on if we didn't think it was possible.
Sigmund had a question. How will you combat cross-exchange prices? I think a few word answer is, definitely staying competitive is going to always be a battle within these markets. But things that we will discuss, going down the road, and as long as it makes sense on paper, it's definitely something we will stay on top of. Mr. Hole had to go to bed. Thank you for staying awake to ask your recent questions. But he had another one. Does the creation of the SEX benefit KTO directly in any way, other than maybe listing it as a product to trade? Very extensive conversations that we've had in the past, and that same question has been in our head all the way up until now. Yes, I would have to say it definitely will. There's multiple things that, even I have, plans on talking with Tech Alchemy as far as features in the future, and, ways to make sure that it benefits the foundation of KTO, because, this is where it's coming from, right? The foundation, the community, they're very important to us. So, as we always say, the decentralized is built into the brain. So anything that we discuss or do will always make, it will always make sense to make it more beneficial to, the people and the KTO community as we go along. So I'm pretty excited to go over the features that I have kind of come up with in my head, and a lot of the others that the community has come up with. But again, this is starter stages, and we have lots of talks ahead of us. I think we're crawling up on the 1 hour. Try to get a few more questions in here. Making life easier for new investors with less much about crypto more than the AI. Can your questions?
I'll just answer this one in voice as well. I'll have answered it in text. Grant is asking, for example, if you stake a certain amount of tokens and the price changes, then when it comes time to unstake them, whether you're going to get the same amount of tokens or the same dollar value of tokens, it will always be the same amount of tokens, obviously with the small staking and unstaking fee if present. But the amount of tokens is not going to be affected by the price fluctuations.
Yeah, for that kind of question, I think when you're thinking about crypto assets, just think of them as normal assets and then ask yourself the same question. If you were to, obviously we're in the UK, right? So I'll use pounds and dollars as an example. If I put £100 in the bank and then take £100 out of the bank in a week's time, do I get the same amount of pounds or do I get the same amount of dollars worth of pounds? Everything that happens in its own token happens in its own token, right? And in this scenario, pounds are the token. And so obviously the pound and dollar fluctuate against each other, but what I get is pounds. So if I've staked KTO, I will get KTO.
Yep.
I'm not sure what Basher is
we
trying
having
to ask him.
He's asked a lot
Are
of
you
funny
ready?
questions. Are we having a party? That's a good question. I want to know as well.
Yes. Yeah, I would love to have the biggest party we possibly can, but unfortunately there is so much work to be done. We're going to have to postpone that party for right now. Bear, is there anything that we may be dropping or revisiting from the previous plan? I could definitely jump in on this one. As of right now, there's a lot to go over, Bear. The intent is to continue as planned. The initial engine, the platform, it's definitely the primary focus right now. We will be digging into the roadmap, and if there is any changes that we see or features we might want more over others, we will definitely make that very clear before kind of putting everything down. So the answer to that is yes and no. But for right now, it's continuing as planned. What kind of post-beta development arrangements do we have with Tech? Well, with Alchemy. How long will they stay on board regarding support/maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that if you'd like. So we have, we have our normal contracted support periods, which are always included, which is effectively depending on essentially the customer, that's KTO, has to do their acceptance test. Once they are happy with things, we will then stick around to fix bugs for a period of time. I don't know. I'm going to actually not look at the chat. You guys are a bit funny, and so sometimes it distracts me. The
Welcome
yeah,
to my
so
world.
like yeah, exactly. The post beta. I mean, first thing I should say is post beta is not what we're contracted to do. We're contracted to do it all, right? And so the beta is not the release that we're contracted to do. But if I assume what you mean is how long will we be around after that, it really depends on what we're still building. As Artie said, we have loads of features that we've already discussed and that we're going to carry on discussing, right, that come after. You guys are talking about some of those features already. As long as we're building the product, obviously we will carry on maintaining the product. And so I can't actually see us, stepping away from KTO and handing it off. I mean, for now, I would basically say I can't see us ever doing that. And when that happens, there'd be quite ample notice to everyone. The other thing I'll say is we work with clients who are we're a blockchain agency, right? Like we're one of like 20 agencies in the world who are actually used to how volatile and how difficult and how hard how everything it is that comes with being in crypto, the ups and the downs, right? Like we're all aware of that. That's why we're here. So we're aware of, we might be contracted to fix things for 3 months, but that doesn't mean on the 3 month plus 1 day we're just gone, see you, never coming back, right? That's not how it works. We're a pretty nice group of people. We will fix things because we have a lot of pride in what we do. We also help hire people a lot, and so quite a lot of times we will have a client who eventually wants to hire their own team, and so we can just help with that. We don't see you guys or anyone hiring team or hiring in-house developers and stuff as a problem. It's something we want to help with. We're an agency. We know that can always happen.
I strictly think of this GIF when it comes to thinking about Tech Alchemy. And I just posted it in the Q&A. But yes, so we have every intention to continue working with you guys. Recently, it was our first meeting, and I think it went very well. I have respect for what you guys do, and it's very easy to conversate with you guys. So I think we've got a bright future together, and we're just never going to let you leave. So on to the next. What's our time spot here? Okay, we'll take one more, and then it's getting around that time. So will we be researching who will be hosting the SEX database servers, ECT? Does TA have recommended companies that do that? And also, will we be looking for data centers in the US or abroad?
It is something we've looked at, obviously, for this project and a million others. Where data centers are placed really, really depends on where customers are placed. That's one of the main drivers behind this kind of stuff. Also, typically when you're setting up instances the way we are, you try and place multiple, essentially clusters of the same products. I'm trying to explain this. You have copies of the same thing and you put them as close to where your customers are as possible. So if we had a big customer base in the UK and a big customer base in Australia, we'd have data centers in the UK and data centers in Australia, and you would connect to the right one depending on your location. We also look at this from like a failure perspective, meaning we want uptime and we want impossible. We want failure to be impossible, and so spreading your data across lots of different places, orchestrating it so that, let's say we use AWS, orchestrating so that we also have backups outside of AWS is very important. It's something that we always do.
I don't know. I would say, if anybody has any more questions, definitely put them in. Well, actually, we're in Q&A, but we will answer them as we go. We definitely don't want to tie up too much time. Lots of work to be done. One of the things I did want to announce that to look out for, exciting stuff. Now that the technical side is kind of, you understand where we're at. And there will be an upcoming event for NFTs. We're calling it the NFT raffle. There will be several of them, month to month. So definitely look out for them. We're currently building the material for it. So sometime within this upcoming week, we'll be launching that into announcements. So definitely keep your eyes out for it. Exciting stuff, especially for those who weren't here from the start. We'll have a chance to get their hands on those beautiful NFTs for the centralized exchange utility. So outside of that, I have nothing left to add currently. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
I think for me, just glad to be talking to everyone again. I think I said it last time, but the KTO community is one of our biggest supporters. So I'm always happy to be a part of these. We do see you guys talking about us on Twitter all the time. I see some of the people who are here right now are always at mentioning us, and we do see it and we do appreciate it.
I do see your question, Sloth. We have a lot of talks about burning mechanisms that we need to go over with Tech Alchemy to make sure they make sense. But so when we know it'll work, we'll definitely put that out as one of those added options. But as Soham has said, our focus right now is getting the platform up and running and working correctly. So if no one else has anything left to add, I think we should call it here. We appreciate you guys for coming. All the questions, again, great. The more you ask, the stronger we become. So keep them coming. Keep the suggestions coming. Keep the questions coming, and we'll start. We'll dive in with Tech Alchemy and start building this thing fully.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming, Soham. Thanks, Yon. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Cram. I see you're out there in the chat too. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Thanks,
Good, everyone.
Thanks, guys.